Facebook. Hello, everybody in Facebook world.
And Kim
We're
will be
just
joining me here on Instagram in just a few minutes. She is making us go live on Facebook. Okay, I see her request. I accept her request. Did it get accepted? It did not.
yes, it did.
It did. Okay,
It did.
excellent.
I'm connecting.
Connecting.
Hello.
Hello, and volume goes down, and presentation goes down. I love how we do this. Okay,
I'm
and
just
then I
go
will
ahead.
be joining you in just a second too. Instagram world, and we are live.
Okay. And for now, I'm a floating head on Instagram until Vita joins us. And then the screens will balance out. But if you're just joining us now, welcome to episode number 104. We're going to be discussing drapery pins. It is a redo from our episode from last week. We were having some technical issues all around. There you go. Okay.
Can you please bring me on headphones? Okay. Oh, here I am. Okay.
You're here.
I just realized that I jumped.
You're in
it. There's like 15 different steps that need to happen for both of us to go live, for the sound to be okay, for the presentation and the pictures to show up. So when it actually all happens, it is a miracle. Well,
yes.
A little short of a miracle.
We get very excited.
We do get very excited. All right, Kim. So today we are talking about a super duper sexy topic of drapery pins. Wait, hang on.
Yes.
Do that now. Let me just connect this. I started fiddling with my phone and I shouldn't have. Okay. I'm not touching it again. No, I will, because it's not straight. Okay, is it straighter?
Yeah, it's better.
Okay, good. Okay, so let's get in it, right?
Yes. So, all right. So, what is a drapery pin? That is a drapery pin. So, no, but in all jokes aside, a drapery pin is used to connect the drape. It gets hooked onto the drape, and this way, then from the drape can get hooked onto whatever hardware mechanism, whether it's a rod with rings or a rod with carriers. So they get hooked onto the back of a panel. And I have a panel here made from 38 East fabric. Yay!
Very nice.
And
very nice.
You can see here that the pin is hooked into the drape. So that back part that kind of has the needle, I'll just unpin this one real quick. That gets put into the drape. And then this part here is what gets hooked onto the ring or the carrier. So, and it's often go ahead.
Yeah. I was just gonna say that while you are pinning it, I will show. I also have visual aids. Both Kim and I have visual aids today. So this is what the back of the drapery panel looks like. Of course, we all usually know what the front of the drapery panel looks like. I'm kind of holding it on the diagonal so you guys see more of it. And so we have these beautiful pleats. And then usually there is a ring that comes out like this, and it's all holding up on the rod. And so in case you ever wondered, well, how is that panel holding up on the ring? And the answer is drapery pin.
And that's how you can tell when a drape has been made as a custom product as opposed to a custom hardware. I don't have one with me. I don't even.
What are you looking for?
Like a ring with a clip. Because
I do.
Oh, you do have a ring with a clip.
I do have a ring with a clip.
My arch nemesis. I can't stand those.
Me too. I despise this tricky looking thing.
I hate that.
Wow, that's really strong emotion about a ring clip, Kim.
It's just because it's so ugly, and then you have to like fight with people that like, oh, well, why can't I just clip my drapes on? Because then they don't look custom. And then we make this beautiful drape, and then it's just going to like hang like poo, to put it nicely.
So what Kim is referring to is this clip right here. Like that. And here's the face.
Yeah.
The ready-made drapes that don't use hooks usually get clipped on like this. And it looks awful. you see this little part of the ring, which is called the eyelet, and then you see this clip. And to use Kim's highly technical lingo, it looks like poo.
I would want to use a different word, but
I understand.
live social media. No, and sometimes when we do have clients that want to supply their own hardware, I don't know about you, Vita, but I oftentimes I have to review it, and they have to get it approved by me first before they order it, because I don't want to get on a job and it's a whole,
Yeah,
bag of rings with clips.
right, right,
And if
right.
it is the kind of thing that it does come with clips, we have to just make sure that we can take them off. And it
Exactly.
has
So
the eyelet.
right. So for example, this ring right here. So what Kim is talking about again, so this little ring at the bottom, it's called eyelet. And this is the clip. Now, usually you can easily take this clip off. I'll do it.
Hmm.
I'll try to do it live. Let me see if I can do it. It's pretty the the thing that so I
Yeah.
just took it apart. This little thing that it's holding on to is pretty light gauge metal, so it's just you can easily take it apart. And then you have two normal looking rings, and these are the types of rings that we use in the custom window treatment world. And then to go back to our topic of uh, pins, drapery pins, Kim showed you how she how she inserted the pin inside the back of the pleat. And then you have this ring right here with the eyelet. You fish the back of the pin through the eyelet, and this is what it looks like when it's hung on the rod.
Yep.
So this is how we're able to make the rings not go horizontal like that or twist around. It's nice and perfectly straight like this. And you don't see the hook, you don't see the eyelet, you don't see the pin, you don't see any of it. All you see is a beautiful drape with the pleat and the ring nicely aligned. So the bottom of the ring is nicely aligned with the top of the pleat.
Now, Vita, do you want to talk to everyone about, because we are talking about drapery pins, drapery pin settings, how there's different
Yes.
settings. So
Yep,
that way,
exactly.
this is something that as a designer and a retail client, you would not have to spec. But as a window treatment professional, if you do not have your own workroom, this is something you would have to spec to whomever is making your window treatments about the drapery pin setting. And it's important to note what that is prior to the drape being made and knowing what kind of hardware you're using, because that affects where the workroom is going to place the pin on the panel. So if you want to just go into a little bit more detail on drapery
Yep,
pin setting, we can
yep.
kind of give everybody that info.
That's great. Okay, so there are two basic types of hardware that ultimately affect the drapery pin setting. Now, we've talked about hardware many times on this show. I'm sure we'll be talking many more times. And there's many different kinds of hardware in terms of the style and the finish and the material and the vendors and the look and the feel and all that sort of thing. But as it relates to pin setting, I know of two kinds, right, Kim? Would you agree?
Yes.
So there's one type of hardware is the traversing, like a Kirsch type of, like a traversing rod. Usually it's Kirsch or a Kirsch Architrack or a traversing hardware with a fascia, but usually there's some sort of traversing component that is included in this hardware. And then the second type of hardware, as it relates to drapery setting, is rods and rings. So I will go into the pin setting for the rods and rings, and Kim, you can take it away for the traversing. How's that?
Sure.
Okay, so the what pin setting refers to is the distance that at which this pin is set from the top of the pleat. So for example, right now, if you guys can see, the distance of the top of the pin to the top of the drapery is about 1/4 of an inch. Now, why is it 1/4 of an inch? And that is because that is the length of this eyelet. The length from the bottom of the ring to the bottom of the eyelet is about 1/4 of an inch. 1/4, maybe sometimes 3/8 of an inch, but we're talking like the hair difference of 1/8 of an inch. The reason you want to set this drapery pin at 1/4 of an inch for decorative hardware that involves rods and rings is because when this ring is hooked inside this hook and the drape is hung, that 1/4 of an inch is exactly what allows that eyelet to be hidden behind the pleat. Now, let me show you what happens if that 1/4 of an inch is not followed. So I just took the pin out, and what I'm going to do is set it in a way that the top of the drapery is aligned with the top of the hook. So go into here and put it in. So you can see that the top of the drapery is aligned with the top of the hook. Maybe I'll bring it down just a hair. When that is done and I put the ring on, what happens is you can see the eyelet. So if you don't want to see the eyelet. Essentially, you want to hide the eyelet because it's not the pretty portion of the hardware, not a pretty portion of the decorative ring. What you want to do is hide it like this behind the drapery. And the only reason you can do that is you set the pin further down inside the drape, inside the back of the pleat, that when you put it on, that eyelet is nicely hidden behind the pleat, just like this. So this is called pin setting. So again, the pin setting is the distance from the top of the hook to the top of the drapery. All of it is happening in the back of the drapery. It's not really visible. Nobody really knows about it except for you, the window treatment professional, and the installer. Even the designers don't necessarily need to know all the intricacies of it. I mean, it's good that you do, but if you don't, that's okay. What you need to know is that you never want to see, as a designer, you never want to see this little awful clip. And you really don't want to see this eyelet. You want it nicely hidden behind the drape. And so as a window treatment pro and the installer, again, the pin setting is the distance from the top of the drape to the top of the pin. For the decorative rods and rings, that pin setting is 1/4 of an inch.
You know what's funny? We use about a 1/2 an inch.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
Well,
like
that's interesting.
Yeah, you see this? Because this is decorative, and that's
Yeah.
about a 1/2 inch down from the top.
Well, so here's what happens. If you put it a 1/2 inch down, well, here's the thing, you guys. You can easily remove these.
Yeah.
So that's the good thing. So even if you specify the setting at a certain, even if you specified it at an inch, and that's what your workroom did, and they came in at an inch, and then you're like, oh no, I actually need it higher or lower, you can easily remove it. What it does is it creates double work, and it takes time, and it's a little bit of a stupid work, but at least it's possible. It's very easily possible. But here's the thing, I'm going to argue with you, Kim. Sometimes we do that on this show. It's our show. It's our party, so we cry if we want to, right? So I'm going to move it down to 1/2 an inch, which is like kind of like this, right? That's about 1/2 an inch. So when you put the ring in, it's really, for me, it's the distance between the top of the drapery panel and the bottom of the ring is really very, very close. And what happens, the ring kind of like it sort of scratches on the fabric. It doesn't give it room to breathe. But again, we're talking here about like a 1/4 of an inch difference. So maybe it's not as much of a principled issue. The point here that we're trying to make is that the pin needs to be set further down on the drape, never aligned with the top of the drape, with the idea that this eyelet is hidden.
Unless
that's the way we do it.
Unless like I'm doing a non-decorative ceiling mounted rod where the designer doesn't want to see the rod. She wants the drape basically floating from the ceiling. So then we're bringing the setting down even lower so that this way it's about 1.25 inches, I think, that we're setting it down, so that this way the rod is hidden and the drape looks like it's just floating. Now there will be like a gap between because it's an operable drape, from the top of the ceiling to the top of the drapery panel, but our pin has to be set down lower in order for the rod to be hidden. And to your point, because we have been in situations where we have it most for the most part. Then the different pin settings are called different things. You have ceiling, you have decorative. I usually default to decorative, and
Mhm.
if I don't change it, the worker makes it decorative because that's what I asked, and then
Mhm.
Billy has to adjust all the pins on site. So sorry. I still remember one big project. It was like wall to wall drapes in the city, and we had the wrong pin setting. And Luann and I had to
And
sit
you had to
there.
change the whole thing.
Yeah, no, but that was mine and Luann's test to sit there and swap it out.
Right,
We
right.
happened to be on that install, and they're like, "Get to moving, ladies."
Yeah, yeah.
So it,
So,
it
okay, so
happens.
let's
It happens. Like
yeah,
even the
listen,
best.
it happens all the time. Yeah, absolutely. And it's not that big of a deal,
No.
depending how many drapery panels you are doing, how heavy they are, how much time you've allotted for the install. I mean, all of it. It's not like you have to redo the entire drape. I mean, if anything can go differently than you anticipated or planned, let it be the pin setting than anything else.
Yeah, and then that's the other thing too. Like when we've run into things where all the linens out now that are extra stretchy, and it's like, so we can play around with the pins a little bit in the back, that it's like, okay, we know like once we steam it, it's already hitting the floor, and we know that it's going to be doing XYZ. Billy will adjust the
Right,
pins sometimes to
right.
say, okay, I just adjusted the pin a little bit in the back, moved it up a little bit in order, I know that this will eventually grow and shrink. But by
Yep.
just doing that slight little adjustment, it gets it to that sweet spot that we need.
Let me go back to your example of hidden rod. So talk
Okay.
to me about that rod. Was it actually a decorative rod that you decided to hide, or was it one of those plain Kirsch white Architrack or whatever
It
Traverse
was
rods?
just it was just a simple, super fine, basic
Yep.
rod.
Hmm.
That what's happening is very similar to if anybody has seen the 3080 stripes that are hanging in Luann's office. Um, we have two different planes. So the designer just wants the rod to kind of just disappear. She doesn't want to call attention to it. The drape is acting more of like a backdrop because the wall's funky. There's electrical. There's
Yeah.
the box there, and she's like, nope. I just want to. We have this gorgeous basement. So that was the design, and so by doing that, we have to just tell them what pin setting I needed to use in order for the rod to be hidden, because we don't want the drape to sit under the rod and connect to the carriers. We want the pleats to sit almost, well, in this case, to sit even with it, because a lot of times we have done non-decorative rods wall mounted, where the client, when the drape is closed, doesn't want to see the rod at all.
At all.
So
Right.
we've been in that situation where they don't want to spend money on hardware, but
Hmm.
they also don't want to see this basic white track.
Yeah.
So we'll
Right.
have to push it above, and then that with that in that case, then the drape sits a little bit above the um the rod. So again,
Above
we
the
have to
rod. Right.
adjust the pin setting according to that.
Yep. So let's talk about the different kinds of drapery pins. So the ones that we've been telling you guys about pretty much look like this. I
Hmm.
think they look like little torture devices, if
Yeah.
you ask me.
Ever step on one accidentally? Not fun.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then we also have a two-prong drapery pin, and there are even three-prong drapery
Hmm.
pins, believe it or not. And here we'll just leave this picture of what the pin looks like behind the drapery. So we have only ever used the single prong pin. The two prong and the three prong, I'm pretty sure I've only either seen in pictures, or if we're in a situation where we have to take down really, really old drapes, like I'm talking like from the 70s and the
Yeah.
80s, then I see some really funky and like different kinds of pins.
Yeah.
How about
Yeah.
you, Kim?
These are the only ones that we have used in the 14 years that I've been doing this.
Mhm.
And to your point, I've only seen that when we're working with drapes that are older drapes, or we've taken down older drapes, or I call our dumpster out in the back our time capsule, oftentimes because you see all the old stuff that we take down and throw out. So
Yeah.
yeah, so it's not something that I think is very common to use nowadays. If you are using them, let us know
Let us know.
and why.
Good point.
Yeah.
But I do have to make a distinction actually. So going back to the single prong pin,
Hmm.
which is what both Kim and I use. And Kim, you've been doing this for what, 15 years
Yeah,
or so?
14, 15
Yep.
years. Yeah.
Yep. I'm just like, I only have a couple of years on you. So, for the last 15 years, Gina has an echo. Vita has an echo. Why do I have an echo? Gina, I don't know why I have an echo. I have everything is turned off. Everything is turned off. No reason for me to have an echo. Can you hear an echo, Kim?
Very little, but I just sometimes I hear it in my
I'll kind
headphones.
of move back a little bit like this. Um, okay, so what was I gonna say? The two
Just in,
different kinds of pins. Yeah.
hmm.
So we're talking about the single prong pin, and but there's actually two different weights of those,
Yes.
and two different sizes. So I'm going to show it to you like this. So this is a smaller one.
Hmm.
This is a bigger one. If I were to overlay them, can I do that? So here you can kind of
Yeah.
see how they stack up against each other. Okay, now what is the reason to use, now smaller pin, let me tell you, I have my little handy ruler here. Let me tell you how much it measures. It measures, I'm gonna do this. So the smaller pin measures about 1.25 inches, and the larger pin measures about 1.5 inches. But also I have to tell you, it's made out of stronger material. So it's much thicker, like metal is much thicker here than this little guy. When would you use the bigger pin versus the smaller pin? So as much as possible, I have to tell you, we try to use the smaller pins. And that is because um, they can withstand a lot of fabrics and still a lot of weight, but they're a lot easier to insert. We would use these heavy duty pins maybe 20-30% of the time. Uh-oh.
I see you.
You do?
Hmm.
Nope. I'm pretty sure I'm going to disappear, or presentation is going to disappear in a second.
Oh no. I mean,
Uh-huh.
okay, just keep talking and then
Okay.
we'll round it out.
Okay. One of our phones just went dark. Okay,
Oh,
so
you're still
the
live on our end. You're still live on our end. So,
amazing. I'm not sure how that's working, but
okay.
okay.
Magic.
So magic, yes. So the heavier pin we use on like heavy duty drapes, velvets, something that is black outlined, something that has multiple widths, so much heavier weight
Long
fabric,
in length. Yeah.
long in length, yeah, stuff like that. So what I wanted to show as far as like the ease of inserting it. So where you insert it is in the back of the drapery panel. So this is the front of the pleat. This
Hmm.
is the back of the pleat. So you have the face fabric, you have the lining, maybe interlining, but definitely buckram. What buckram is
Hmm.
a stiffener that you put inside the pleat. And it is inside the seam that you have to insert this pin. Well, because of the stiffener, because of that buckram, and because how high, I think it's called low gauge, right? If
Yeah.
it's thicker, it's the lower gauge. So in order to insert it in, like right now, it went in pretty easily, but sometimes it goes in so very hard, to use your finger, like my fingers, I mean, they've never bled, but I swear to God, it feels like they're about to bleed. I would get like little blisters on my fingers trying to hook them in. It
Hmm.
is just, it's a very painful process to insert these pins. Very painful. Now, one of you may say, "Oh, there's a little nifty little, like, not machine. What do you call it? Like a nifty little contraption
Yeah.
that can help you do that." I have not met a single installer yet who likes that contraption. Does Billy use it?
No.
Yeah. Okay. See, there. Why not?
Well, our pins already come on right from the
Reset. But if he
workroom.
has to redo them,
It's by hand. He puts he's Billy
yeah,
is here's if there's anything about Billy, he's very old school when it comes to a lot of things. If I were to be like, there's a nifty tool, he would probably
yeah.
look at
You're
me
like,
cross-eyed. You're like, these are the tools.
Right. Happy fingers. So there is a nifty little tool. It's usually sold by like a Rolly or Ellen Richards, so custom window treatment type of suppliers. But the issue with them is they're not very flexible. It is kind of they're also not extremely easy to use, I think.
No.
And you don't have a lot of like if you need to move the pin slightly up or slightly down, that nifty little contraption that does not allow you to do that. So I have found that it is a lot more convenient and faster to do it by hand. The problem is if you do
And we're gone on Instagram.
and we're gone on Instagram. Okay, we're just gonna finish it off on Facebook.
Yep.
And we're going to call it a day on drapery pins because this is our second time trying, and universe something between drapery pins and the universe is not aligning. Are you okay?
No, it's funny because it's such an engaging topic.
I'm actually having a lot of fun.
I know.
All right, I don't know what I was going to say. Let's see what other pictures we have.
Mary on Facebook is saying it's a pin setter.
Oh, it's a pin setter. Thank you very much. That's what it's called.
A little tool thingy.
A little tool thingy, yes. Oh, Mary Cardinale, my neighbor here. Yes, the pin setter, the nifty little tool. Mary, question for you. Do your installer use a pin setter, or do you guys do it by hand? Let me see if I can give us some. So here we have a picture of all of these pins. Like these are some really old school pins, super long. Yeah, but this picture gives you a good visual of how once you've pinned all the pins, you've pinned your drape, how you hook it onto the eyelets and onto your decorative hardware.
Mary said,
"Oh, hate them. She hates it."
I mean, sometimes there's just things that just make it a little extra and a little harder for no reason.
Exactly. I mean, I think that pin setter was a good concept. Like theoretically it was a good concept because I remember what I was going to say, like the finger, like it hurts so badly after you've put enough of them in. Like if you have the entire room of drapes or the entire house of drapes, you have a really big install, and like most of them are heavy or long, made out of super heavy velvet fabrics, or they have blackout lining, or for whatever reason they're super heavy, and you have to insert like 100 of these. Your finger will hurt so bad, and I have had blisters on my finger trying to like put them in.
I have a permanent, I don't know about you, but I have a permanent, not about pin setting, but about fingers. I have a permanent callus on my finger from the tape measure.
Oh, girlfriend, the woes of our trade, right?
I know. I'm like, I always like, it's just like, it's there. It's forever there. And especially when I get a new one, I'm like, anyway.
Yeah. This reminds me when I used to do some like CrossFit type of exercises, there was a lot of like pull-ups or dead hangs. So over time, I developed a whole bunch of calluses on my hands. Well, I call them badges of honor.
Yeah.
So girlfriend, all of these little calluses or whatever we have on our fingers, that's a badge of honor of a window treatment pro.
Exactly. All right. Alrighty, everybody. Well,
I think we've exhausted the drapery pin conversation.
We have. So, okay. Before we let you go, there's a couple of free goodies that we have for you. If you are new to window treatments and you really want to get your kind of basic window treatment 101, please head on over to windowworksnj.com, where you can get our free ebook, Architectural Digest Isn't Coming, 10 Things You Need to Know About Custom Window Treatments. Hello, puppy.
Hello, his name is Crouton.
Hi, Crouton.
So everyone say hello to Crouton. So my daughter just handed him off to me because she spilled something and she doesn't want him licking it or going through it. So Crouton will be finishing up this episode with us. So from Vitalia Inc., we also have a free gift for you. It's called 37 and a half Window Treatment Ideas for you to steal, swipe, and use immediately on your next design project. It is a really wonderful, curated lookbook that we put together for designers and the window treatment pros, and you can get yours on VitaliaInc.com.
And then if you are interested in buying an awning, it's summertime and you can still get your awning for the fall, head on over to WindowWorks where you can get your free custom awning buying guide, 5 mistakes that you can avoid before purchasing your own awning. And to keep up with all things Miss Luann Igara, head on over to luannigara.com where you can listen to a well-designed business podcast where WTF, or Window Treatment Friday, live started from. Not only does she have a well-designed business podcast, she also has her new podcast, Window Treatments for Profits, where Vita is a co-host. So tell everyone about your weekly episode.
Yeah, so I'm very excited and proud and humbled, and definitely consider it a privilege to be the recurring guest host on Luann's Window Treatment for Profit podcast. My series is called Vita's Tip in 10. It comes out every Thursday, and it is a 10-minute tip directly from me, from someone who is in the trenches, boots on the ground and eyeballs on the window treatments, where I share with you an interesting story and ultimately convert it into a tip for you to run a better window treatment business. So join us every week, every Thursday. Join Vita's Tip in 10 or listen to it.
Oh, and Luann is here. Hey, Lou.
Luann is here. Hey. Yes, and also Luann's episode drops every Monday, where she either interviews a window treatment pro or goes solo with her awesome tips and advice. And then every Wednesday, Madeline McCrae does her own series, which is called C-Suite, I believe. And where she, from her experience and a lot of consulting and just being around the creative folks, whether in the window treatment industry or interior design industry, she has an incredible amount of knowledge and understanding and experience. So she gives some really awesome advice there as well. So Window Treatment for Profit, all about window treatment business tips for window treatment pros. Join us.
Perfect. All right. And if you are in the New Jersey and New York area, or if you're a designer from out of state and you have a project here on the East Coast that you need some help with, whether it's a window treatment or awning project, please feel free to give us a call, send us an email, or DM us. Or if you're not only a designer that's watching this and you are a homeowner that just doesn't know where to start, we would be happy to help you all on your next projects.
And if you are in the Philadelphia tri-state area, then Vitalia Inc. Window Treatment is for you. Kids are home from school. Yes, summer break, exactly. Okay, when summer camp's starting? 3-week sleepaway camp starts next Sunday. Somebody is counting the days. Somebody's counting the days now. They're wonderful. They've been helping around the business quite a lot. So anyway, if you are in the Philadelphia area and you're an interior designer, Vitalia Inc. Window Treatments Company is the company for you, because we are exclusively to the trade. We are your go-to resource, your white glove, your concierge level service, exclusively to the trade, like I said. And we're here to help and support you. We take the risks and the hassle and the worry and the responsibility off of your shoulders. We put them onto ours and make you look like heroes at the end of the whole process. So give us a call.
All righty, everyone. Well, that concludes today's redo episode of number 104, the very cool topic.
Exciting and sexy.
Drapery pins.
Should we do the hair thing? Drapery pins.
Drapery pins. If we hope you join us next Friday for Window Treatment Friday Live, because if it's Friday,
it is WTF Live. And I don't know what you guys are thinking, but WTF stands for a Window Treatment Friday, although any window treatment pro has had many WTF moments.
Yes, anyway, we have.
Join us here every Friday morning at 9 a.m. on Facebook and Instagram. And until then, have a great weekend.
Bye-bye, everyone.